feeling taken advantage of if anything should go wrong in our transaction. So I'm willing to proceed without it. I do want to make sure you understand that my employers will never let anything jeopardize their reputation as men not to be crossed. And if at any point that reputation needs to be reestablished, it won't be me they send.
Well, I assume we have a deal.
And they do. So they make an arrangement to for Boyd to come to Mexico to pick up the heroin and bring it back across the border. And Boyd calls Hot Rod to arrange the final particulars and has a conversation with him. But Hot Rod tells him, hey, you know what? It's going to go just as smooth as that time we were buying pot from from Dickie Bennett. And if we, rewind to season 2, we remember that Hot Rod was in fact buying pot from Dickie Bennett when Boyd and Arlo came in and robbed them. And so Boyd says, uh-oh, something's wrong, and realizes he's going to need a little bit of additional help. And so he goes and recruits the Crows to help him kill his cousin Johnny. Because the plan at this point, with Hot Rod at least, is that cousin Johnny's coming to Mexico with him, and Boyd can kill him and leave him in the desert. So we'll see what happens there. But I did want to talk a little bit about the wonton among the tortillas, kimchi, and the salsa kind of comment, because that's our all of that is our food of the week.
God damn, woman, you only shoot people when they're eating supper.
But the Hanneken, this was interesting to me because I hadn't looked this, I hadn't ever heard of this, and before this show. So Hanneken is a agave plantation in Mexico, Haneken. And the people, the Koreans, Korean laborers who worked those plantations were called the Anakin or Hanneken. I don't know exactly how to pronounce it. It's Anikkaengs. So I think it's pronounced roughly the same way as the Spanish word Hanneken is, but it's a Korean word for the people who worked on those plantations. And these are Korean laborers, about 1,000 of them arrived in Mexico at the start of the 20th century. It was like 1903 or 1905, something like that. They were fleeing the Imperial Japanese, who at that time were dominant in Korea and made things really, really crappy for Native Koreans. You can read about that if you want, but it's pretty horrible. So they headed to the New World in hopes of a better life. And they end up getting to Mexico, like trucked across the country, trained across the country, and then essentially sold to the highest bidder to work on the agave plantations. Now, they weren't technically slaves. It was sort of like indentured servitude. They were paid, but they weren't paid a living wage. They were paid like a subsistence wage. And it was only paid in a currency that was usable at the plantation. And so basically it's a company store sort of thing, right? Schrute bucks, if you're a fan of The Office. They get paid in Schrute bucks, and they anticipated, all of them had anticipated returning to Korea, but were too poor to do so. And then some of them moved on because they were like, well, this sucks. We're not going to keep doing this. And they move on to Cuba, and they end up doing the same thing in Cuba, except on sugar plantations. So it's pretty awful. And there's a whole line of people in Mexico who are descended from these people. So they're essentially Korean Mexicans. And there's a whole history and litany of information out there. It's fantastic. I looked up and read, again, very high level sort of stuff about this, but that is what the Hanneken were, and I'm glad that this show brought it up because I had never heard of it before. So there you go. The more you know.
The best Koreans actually are the rooftop Koreans. You know
The
who those are.
rooftop Koreans? Yes. Yeah, I know who the rooftop Koreans are. Yeah, that's I think Sublime might have written a song about that. So that's what's going on with Boyd and the crew, and then we get this kind of last couple of scenes with Raylan and Rachel, and Raylan and Allison. And I'm gonna do Raylan and Allison first because I don't have a clip of that, and I think it's very enlightening, right? Because Allison has sort of figured out she's sort of kind of started to figure out who Raylan is. And she pegs him as a man who will run into a burning building. So she says he's a hero. She says, you'll run into, I've met heroes. You're a hero. You'll run into a burning building. But the thing is, I think you're the one setting the fires. And boy, is that an apt way to describe Raylan, right?
That's the backdraft effect.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. You're setting the fires to put them out, to save people. And
or what's the other one? Oh, what is it? Problem, reaction, solution, or something like that. What is that? Oh, the Hegelian dialectic. Is that what that is?
I don't know.
Oh, you ever heard of that? It's like, well, in this case, the example would be government creates a problem and then offers a solution, and then just goes up. Oh, okay. Just keeps on doing that. Yeah.
Okay. I hadn't heard of that. Interesting. Huh. Yeah. So she correctly pegs him as this guy who, because he's ruminating about, he's all bummed because he wasn't able to he's chugging beers, by the way, while he's there. He's got 3 empty bottles in front of him. He chugs another one and opens a 5th. And he's ruminating because he wasn't able to coax Danny Crowe into a lethal showdown. Essentially, he's a butthurt because he wasn't able to kick Danny Crowe's ass. And Rachel also calls him out for this in a conversation that they have in a car that I have a clip of here.
You wanted to kick Danny Crowe's ass, though, right?
Well, there's a certain satisfaction seeing you pop him in the nose.
Feeling cheated it wasn't you?
You mean you feel cheated?
Me? I'm glad it went how it went.
Is that a fact?
What are you implying?
You wanted me to come off the leash so you could call me to heel. That's why you came along, right? Report back to the boss that the chronic problem deputy was kept in check by the office kiss ass.
You might see it that way if you were a son of a bitch. The other way you could see it is that after all we've been through, the trust we've built, I came with you in case you opened up a crack and wanted to talk about how bad you could have messed up, that Art has a swole fist and you got a black eye.
You're not a kiss ass. I'm sorry I said that. You know I think the world of you, and I trust you with my life, but Rachel, I ain't saying a goddamn thing about me and Art.
Because if you did, it would drag the whole office into a shitstorm of biblical proportion, isn't that right?
Yeah, so we see Rachel trying to press for some information out of Raylan about the eye fist scenario, and Raylan refusing to give her any indication whatsoever about what's going on, although she gets the sense that it's a very big deal and that they are better off not knowing. So I think this is the last time Rachel asks about it, actually. Like Tim continues to kind of poke and prod, but I don't think Rachel does anymore. I don't remember.
Well, in a way, he actually confirms, not that she knows exactly what it is, but she knows that there is something there. So Raylan actually confirms that to her.
Confirms essentially that Art punched him in the face, right?
Yeah.
Like you suspected this, like the circumstantial evidence clearly suggested it, but he definitely did it. So yeah. So So we'll see how that whole thing plays out. I do like that Raylan kind of, because he was really kind of mean to Rachel in this episode, and I like that he kind of redeems it at the end by apologizing and saying, "Hey, yeah, you know what? I didn't mean to say that. That was not cool. I really respect you. I trust you with my life. I'm glad you're here with me." That sort of thing. So that was nice to see. I will also say that Rachel looked pretty damn good in those jeans. I will say that too.
I like that, the conversations that Rachel and Raylan have are different conversations, right? They're not jokey like Tim and Raylan.
Right.
Like they actually have like serious conversations, which I think is interesting because that dynamic is just different than all the other. Raylan even jokes around with art. Even.
Yeah. I think this show does, one of the things this show does very, very well is correctly recreate conversations between men and conversations between women, or between men and men and men and women, and how those conversations are different. And how, and I think they do a really good job with it with Raylan and Rachel. They do a really good job with it with Raylan and Winona also, I think, because you contrast how Raylan talks to Tim or to Boyd with how he talks with Rachel or Ava or Winona. And I think there's something about it that feels very authentic to your point.
Yeah.
It feels very, very authentic. And this show is at its best when it's doing that. And this scene in this episode is fantastic. I think the scene where Boyd and Wynn and Picker meet the cartel representatives, I think that's a fantastic scene. It's snappy. It's got good dialogue. We know what's going on. Those are the times when the show's at its strongest, I think.
Yeah, agreed.
So, all right. Well, boy, I think that gets us through the episode. Is there anything we didn't touch on? Anything we didn't cover?
I don't have any more notes.
Yeah, I don't have any more notes either. So that means we're going to get to our last segment.
I was telling my friends this morning how yesterday you come to me and you don't get out of town in 24 hours, I'm going to shoot you on sight.
Fire now! Are you going to shoot him if you catch him?
I'll kill 4 of you before you even clear your weapons, and I'll take my chances with the other 2.
If you get the chance, shoot him in the nuts.
I don't pull my sidearm unless I'm going to shoot to kill.
Are you going to shoot him too, Raylan? And Raylan does not shoot anybody in this episode. No reports to file, no investigations. The AUSA Vasquez isn't going to be looking, at least this week.
No bullets to count?
No bullets to count. Yeah. The more and more I think about it, that is funny. They just blow off what they said they were going to do when they're heading down there, and then take a 3-hour drive to whatever, to Lexington or to
No, the bullets aren't going anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. So, and there was really no gunplay. There was that moment, like I mentioned before, about Raylan possibly shooting the dog, but
yes.
And in fact, that makes me think the only time, at least in recent memory, that I can think of anybody shooting a dog is the John Wick movies.
Oh, I know. Well, I was thinking about the John Wick movies when you were talking about pit bulls. I was thinking about Halle Berry's dogs and how awesome those dogs were.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, those were what were their Malinois? I think.
Yeah, Belgian Malinois.
Yeah. So there was nobody else got in this episode either. It's just pretty much setting up everything for what's coming.
Setting up for what's coming, because we won't be saying this next week.
Yeah. We did have like a 1 episode, what would you say, reprieve?
Yes. The calm before the storm, the inhale before the exhale, the inhale before the scream, rather. Yeah. So bodies start to stack up here pretty quick.
Again.
Yeah, we actually, the next episode is my favorite of this season, with what goes on in Mexico. I had forgotten about the B plot in next week's episode, which was the identity theft guy, which is fun, but it doesn't feel like a justified plot, but I do love the Boyd in Mexico stuff. I think it's fantastic. I think it's very well done. There's some incongruity there that we'll point out next week, but I like it. I enjoy it.
All right, cool.
All right. Well, that wraps us up for season 5, episode 6, Kill the Messenger.